I want to start by making one thing clear about myself. I'm not someone who acts on impulse. I don't blow up or make snap choices. But what my ex-wife said to me that day, right in front of her entire family at a summer cookout, crossed a line so far that there was no coming back from it. The second those words left her mouth, something inside my head just snapped into place, and I knew, without a doubt, that my marriage was over. Before I get to that moment, though, I need to back up and explain how we got there. My name is Ethan. I'm 31 years old, and up until this past July, I was married to a woman named Lauren. We were together for 4 years total, and married for a little over 3 of those years. Lauren comes from what most people would call an upper-middle-class background, the kind of family that's always been comfortable. Her dad, Richard, is a real estate developer. Her mom, Patricia, is a retired schoolteacher who spends her time volunteering at the local library. Her younger brother, Brandon, works in finance. They're the type of family that owns matching dinnerware and plans a big vacation every year to places like Napa Valley. My upbringing couldn't have been more different. My father walked out when I was still a kid. My mom worked 2 jobs just to keep the lights on, and college was something I never finished. Right after high school, I went straight into construction. Over time, I worked my way up, got my contractor's license, and built a steady career for myself. I don't make crazy money, but I do all right. On average, I pull in around $55,000 a year, sometimes more if the projects are good. Lauren, on the other hand, has a master's degree and works as a financial analyst, earning close to 6 figures. From the very beginning, it was obvious her parents weren't exactly excited about me. I noticed it in small ways. Patricia would hesitate just a little too long before answering when people asked what I did for a living. Richard loved bringing up his friends' sons-in-law and their impressive careers, usually right when I was within earshot. Still, I made up my mind early on that I was going to earn their respect. I showed up early whenever they needed help around the house. I fixed things without being asked. I remembered birthdays, holidays, and anniversaries, and I always tried to give thoughtful gifts. I was polite, helpful, and respectful at all times. For 4 solid years, I put in the effort to prove that I deserved to be part of their family. And honestly, I believed it was finally paying off. Richard started calling me son, and would ask for my opinion on different things. Patricia began texting me directly, asking if I'd tried a new restaurant or read a book she thought I might enjoy. For the first time, I felt like I had earned my seat at their table. Then that Saturday in July arrived. The temperature in Dallas was pushing 110 degrees, the kind of heat where the air looks like it's rippling above the pavement. Richard and Patricia were hosting their annual summer cookout at their house in North Dallas, a beautiful place with a pool and a huge backyard. I'd been there since 9 in the morning, helping Richard get the grill set up, moving chairs around, and making sure everything was ready before guests arrived. I'd even gotten up early to make Patricia's favorite potato salad from scratch. I spent nearly 2 hours on it, making sure it turned out exactly right. I needed everything to be perfect because even after 4 years, I still felt like I was being evaluated, like I was constantly trying out for the role of acceptable son-in-law. By mid-afternoon, I was feeling genuinely good. Brandon was out in the yard tossing a football with my brother Andrew's kids. The pool was full of laughter. Richard and I were standing by the grill talking about one of his new downtown development projects, and he was actually asking for my thoughts on some structural issues. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I truly belonged, like I had finally made it. That's when Patricia asked the question. So, when are you two going to give us some grandkids? Andrew's kids could use some cousins to play with. I immediately noticed Lauren stiffen. This wasn't a new topic for us. We'd been talking about it privately for over a year. I wanted kids. She always said not yet. Not until she got promoted. Not until we had more savings. Not until the timing felt right. There was always another condition. I opened my mouth, ready to give a safe, diplomatic answer. Something vague like, "We're working toward it," or "hopefully soon." But before I could finish my sentence, Lauren cut me off. "Not with this one," she said, laughing as she gestured toward me with her wine glass, like she just told a great joke. "Maybe if I find someone who actually has some ambition and drive." The silence afterward was crushing. Richard's hand froze midair as he was setting his beer down. Patricia's smile disappeared instantly. Brandon started coughing after choking on his drink. Even the noise from the pool suddenly felt overwhelming, like every splash was echoing inside my head. Despite the brutal heat, I felt ice cold. For years of helping, showing up early, and trying my best. For years of thoughtful gifts. For years of swallowing my pride around her friends who made it obvious they thought she'd married beneath her. For years of proving I was good enough. And in less than 10 seconds, with a single sentence, she showed everyone exactly how she truly saw me. That I wasn't enough. That she was settling for me. That she was basically keeping her eyes open in case something better came along. I slowly and carefully set my beer down. It was some local craft brew Richard had handed me earlier, one of those small gestures that had made me feel like I belonged there. I stood up without rushing, brushed my hands against my jeans, and looked straight at Patricia and Richard. I didn't look at Lauren. I honestly couldn't bring myself to. When I spoke, my voice was calm and even, which surprised me, because inside I felt completely broken. "You're right," I said quietly. "Someone else will give you those grandchildren." Then I turned and walked away. I went through the house, passing through the kitchen where I'd helped Patricia prep food just hours earlier. I walked past the framed family photos lining the hallway, including our wedding picture from 3 years ago. I stepped out the front door and grabbed my keys from the ceramic bowl on the entry table, the same bowl I'd given them as a housewarming gift after their renovation. I heard footsteps behind me on the driveway. Richard caught up just as I reached my truck. He put a hand on my shoulder, and when I turned around, I could see real pain on his face. Over the years, Richard had slowly become something like a father to me, especially since my own dad had been gone most of my life. "Son, wait," he said. "Just give me a minute." I shook my head. "I'm not your son anymore," I told him. "But I respect you too much to cause a scene at your house. Tell Lauren her things will be on the porch." Through the front window, I could see Patricia gripping Lauren's arm, her face completely drained of color. Lauren looked confused, maybe even irritated, like she thought I was making a big deal out of nothing. I backed out of the driveway slowly and carefully, still trying to be respectful even as everything fell apart. In my rearview mirror, I saw Richard standing there with his hands on his hips, looking completely lost. Lauren stepped outside with her phone already in her hand, probably getting ready to start texting me. I drove away from 4 years of Sunday dinners, holidays, and nonstop effort to build bridges. And strangely enough, I didn't feel panic or regret. What I felt was clarity. Total, unmistakable certainty that I was doing the right thing. Lauren showed up at our apartment about 45 minutes later. We rented a second-floor place in East Dallas with a decent view of the city. By the time she arrived, I was already packing. I heard her coming up the stairs before she even opened the door. Her footsteps were sharp and angry, full of purpose. She burst inside, still wearing the sundress from the cookout. "That was incredibly dramatic," she snapped. "You embarrassed me in front of my entire family." I stopped packing and just looked at her. "I embarrassed you?" "It was a joke," she said. "Seriously, can't you take a joke?" "Which part was supposed to be funny?" I asked. "The not with this one part? Or the part about finding someone with ambition and drive?" She rolled her eyes. "You're being way too sensitive. Everyone knew I was kidding." "Your mom's face went white," I said. "That's not what people look like when they think someone's joking." "Fine," she said, crossing her arms. "I'm sorry you can't handle my sense of humor." She didn't sound sorry at all. I went back to stuffing clothes into my duffel bag. "I can handle your humor. What I can't handle is being humiliated in front of people I've spent 4 years trying to earn respect from." "So that's it?" she asked. "You're really leaving over one comment?" "No," I said, still packing. "I'm leaving because you meant it. You just finally said it out loud. You've been thinking it for a long time, haven't you?" That's when it finally hit her that I was serious. "Where are you even going to go?" "Andrew's place," I said. "I'll come back Tuesday for the rest of my stuff." And that was it. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just walked out. There was nothing left to say. She had already said everything that mattered about me and about how she saw me. And worse, she'd said it in front of her entire family. My brother Andrew lives in Richardson with his wife, Melissa, and their 2 kids. When I showed up at his door that night with a duffel bag in my hand, he took one look at my face and said, "Guest room's yours. Beer's in the fridge." Melissa was more blunt. "What happened?" I told them exactly what Lauren had said, word for word. Melissa's jaw dropped. She said that in front of her parents? Andrew just shook his head, staring at the floor in disbelief. "What did Richard say?" Andrew asked me later that night. "He ran after me down the driveway, calling me son." I told him I wasn't his son anymore. That night, lying awake in the guest room at Andrew's place, my phone wouldn't stop vibrating on the nightstand. Lauren had sent close to 50 messages. At first, they were angry and accusatory. "This is ridiculous. You're completely overreacting." Then the tone shifted. The anger turned into pleading. "We need to talk. This is stupid." The last message said something like, "My dad wants to call you." I responded exactly once. "I have nothing to say right now." The next few days felt unreal, like I was moving through fog. I went to work, came back to Andrew's house, and tried to wrap my head around how everything had fallen apart so fast. On Tuesday, Andrew went with me back to the apartment, just in case. Lauren was at work. I only took what was clearly mine and left the wedding photos right where they were, still in their frames. But I did take the tool set Richard had given me for Christmas the year before. It was a really nice craftsman set, and inside the lid was an inscription that read, "To my son-in-law, for building your future." Reading that now stung more than I expected. Still, I'd earned that set through years of helping him with projects and showing up whenever he needed a hand. It was mine. Wednesday evening, Richard called and left a voicemail. His voice sounded tired and strained. "Ethan, it's Richard," he said. "I don't know what to say except I'm sorry. There's no excuse for what Lauren said. Patricia is furious with her. I just want you to know I considered you family. I still do. Please call me back." I saved the message but didn't return the call. He still saw me as family. His daughter clearly didn't. On Thursday, I canceled our summer vacation. We'd planned a trip to Colorado in August and had a cabin booked in Estes Park. The reservation was under my name. I put down $1,300 and got about $900 back after the cancellation. Lauren found out when Patricia mentioned how excited she had been about the trip. Lauren texted me, "You canceled Colorado? That was for all of us." I replied, "I'm not family, remember?" Later that day, while we were eating lunch, Andrew finally asked the question I'd been avoiding. "Are you divorcing her?" "I don't know yet," I admitted. "But I do know I'm not going back to being her punchline." "She's called Melissa 3 times asking if you're okay," he said. "Honestly," I replied, "I'm better than I've been in months." Andrew studied me for a moment, then nodded. "You know what? You really do seem lighter, like something heavy finally came off your shoulders." He wasn't wrong. Despite the hurt and the anger, I felt free in a way I hadn't even realized I needed. 3 weeks after the cookout, I met with a divorce attorney. His office was downtown in one of those glass high-rise buildings. His name was Daniel Park, probably in his 50s, no-nonsense kind of guy who got straight to the point. He walked me through the facts. 4-year marriage in Texas, which is a community property state. No kids. Rental apartment. Joint checking account with about $9,000 in it. Separate retirement accounts. Individual car loans. "If you're sure about divorce," he said, "you should file first." Sets the tone. "I'm not completely sure about divorce yet," I told him, "but I am sure about respect." "Then start acting like it's real," he said. "Separate your finances. Establish independent residency. Document everything." The consultation cost me $350. Proceeding with the divorce would be around $5,000. I paid and took the paperwork with me. That Wednesday, I opened a new checking account at a different bank and transferred exactly half of our joint funds, $4,500. In the memo line, I wrote, Separated finances as of July 25th. Remaining balance is yours. Ethan. I updated my direct deposit and stopped contributing to the joint account, though I left it open. Thursday evening, Patricia showed up at Andrew's house. Melissa let her in but stayed nearby, protective. Patricia looked worn down, like she hadn't slept in days. She held the glass of water Melissa gave her, but never took a sip. I need to apologize to you, Patricia said. You didn't do anything wrong, I told her. I raised her, Patricia said quietly. Somewhere along the way, she learned that it was acceptable to treat someone she claims to love like that. That's on me. Patricia, I started, but she lifted a hand. Let me finish, she said. What she said was cruel and disrespectful. Not just to you but to us and to the idea of marriage itself. Richard and I have been married for 36 years. We've been through plenty of hard moments in our marriage, Patricia continued, but I have never, ever publicly humiliated Richard the way Lauren did to you. I didn't know how to respond to that. I just sat there and listened. You've been nothing but kind and respectful to our family, she went on. You show up when we need help. You pitch in without being asked. You remember birthdays. You brought me that book on behavioral economics just because I mentioned it once in passing. She shook her head slowly. You've been trying so hard to belong. I just wanted you to like me, I said quietly. We do like you, Patricia said. We love you. That's why watching you walk away hurt so much. But I understood why you did it. She gently set her glass of water down on the table. What can I do? She asked. There's nothing you can do, I said. This is between Lauren and me. She doesn't understand why you won't talk to her, Patricia said. Because talking only works when there's mutual respect, I replied. And she made it very clear she doesn't respect me. Patricia paused for a moment, choosing her words carefully. Can I ask you something? She said. And I want you to be completely honest with me. Of course. Did you ever think that I believed you weren't good enough for her? She took a long breath before answering. At first, I did have concerns. She has a master's degree. You didn't finish college. She makes 6 figures. On paper, you make much less. I worried she was settling. She looked down at her hands, then back up at me. But now I understand that paper doesn't measure character. She continued, You're always the first person to offer help. You're dependable. You're kind. And you treat her better than she treats you. I'm ashamed that I ever judged you based on income or education. Thank you for being honest, I said. Will you give her another chance? Patricia asked softly. I don't know yet. Before she left, she gave me her personal cell number and told me to call if I ever needed anything. After she walked out, it hit me that I might not just be losing a wife. I might be losing an entire family I had worked for years to earn a place in. The following week, I took off my wedding ring. I placed it in an envelope with a short note. Until you can treat me with respect in public, I won't wear this symbol of our marriage. I mailed it to Lauren at the apartment. After that, I kept noticing the pale line on my finger where the ring had been. Every time I looked down, that empty space caught my attention. For weeks after the cookout, Lauren started showing up at Andrew's house. The first time I wasn't home. Andrew didn't let her inside. The second time was a Thursday evening, just after I'd gotten back from work. She was standing in the driveway in her office clothes, heels and all. You sent back your ring, she said. I did. What does that even mean? It means exactly what the note said. This is insane, she snapped, her voice rising. One comment, and you've blown up our entire marriage. One comment, I said calmly. Made in front of your entire family. One comment that told everyone exactly how you see me. I apologized, she said. I've texted you 100 times. No, I corrected her. You said you were sorry I took it the wrong way. That's not an apology. So what do you want from me? I want you to understand that respect isn't optional in a marriage, I said. And I want you to understand that I'm not your backup plan. I'm not your safety net while you wait for someone with more ambition to come along. I didn't mean it like that. Then how did you mean it? I asked. Explain the joke to me. She tried, but nothing came out. She stood there searching for words, then finally said, I just didn't think. That's the problem, I told her. You didn't think about how it would make me feel. You didn't think about the 4 years I spent trying to earn your family's respect. You didn't think about me at all. That's when she got defensive. You're not perfect either. You work too much. You're always tired. You never want to go out with my friends. You're right, I said, cutting her off. I'm not perfect, but I've never humiliated you in public. I've never made you feel like you weren't enough. So what happens now? She asked. I don't know, I said, but I'm not coming back until something fundamental changes. 5 weeks after the cookout, I met with the apartment management. I wanted my name off the lease. We still had 3 months left. The manager was sympathetic but firm. Both parties had to agree or someone had to pay the buyout fee. It was $2,600. I paid it. My name came off the lease at the end of the month. I didn't tell Lauren. That Wednesday, Richard texted me asking if we could meet. Just the two of us. I agreed. We met early that morning at a coffee shop downtown, before the Texas heat had a chance to take over the day. As soon as I sat down, Richard looked at me and said, Thank you for meeting me. Of course, I replied. And I owe you an apology too. He shook his head. No, Ethan. I should have spoken up immediately. The moment those words came out of her mouth, I should have said something. I should have defended you. You ran after me down the driveway, I reminded him. Yes, he said, nodding. But that was after you'd already left. I should have said something right then. What would you have said? I asked. He paused for a moment. I would have told her she was wrong, that you're a good man, and that she was lucky to have you. I looked at him. Do you really believe that? I do now, he said. And I'll be honest with you. When Lauren first brought you home, I had doubts. You were young. You didn't seem like you had everything mapped out. But over these 4 years, you've shown up in ways I didn't expect. You've proven yourself where it actually counts. I just wanted to be part of the family, I said. You were, he replied. You still are. He leaned forward, resting his arms on the table. That's what makes this whole situation so frustrating for me. Then he told me something I hadn't seen coming. Last year, when we were building that deck together, remember that project? Yeah, I said. Took us about 2 weekends. That Saturday night, he continued, Patricia said to me, that young man works harder than half the people in your office. And she was right. He smiled slightly. You measured twice and cut once. You asked questions. You cared about doing the job correctly. That's when I knew you were going to be fine. More than fine. I didn't know what to say to that. Are you filing for divorce? He asked. I met with a lawyer, I told him. But I haven't filed yet. What's stopping you? For years of history, I said. And the fact that I did love her. Maybe part of me still does. Richard nodded slowly. Love isn't always enough. No, I agreed. It isn't. He reached into his bag and pulled out an envelope, sliding it across the table toward me. Take this. What is it? I asked. Security deposit and first month's rent for wherever you end up, he said. Whatever you need. Richard, I can't take your money. You're not taking it, he said firmly. I'm giving it to you, because you're still my son, even if Lauren doesn't deserve to be your wife. That hit me harder than I expected. For years ago, this man had been skeptical of me. Now he was sitting across from me, offering support without hesitation. I mean it, he added. What she did that day broke my heart, and you handled it with more grace than most men would have. Let me do this. I accepted the envelope. There was $3,000 in cash inside. Not because I desperately needed it, but because he needed to give it. He needed to show me he was on my side. That Friday, I toured an apartment in Plano, near the shops at Legacy. 1 bedroom, 3rd floor. Not as nice as the place Lauren and I had shared, but it was mine. Completely mine. I signed the lease that day. Move-in date was August 1st. I used Richard's money for the deposit and first month's rent. Felt like freedom. Lauren found out the following Monday. She showed up at Andrew's place again, and this time I agreed to talk to her. We stood in the driveway as the sun went down, the temperature finally dropping to something manageable. "You're really moving out?" she asked. "Like, permanently?" "I already moved out," I said. "Now I'm just getting my own place instead of crashing with my brother." Her face fell. "So this is really happening. What did you think was happening?" I asked. "I don't know," she said. "I thought you'd cool off. That we'd talk and figure it out." "We are talking." "No, we're not," she said, frustrated. "You're just making decisions without me. Like you made the decision to humiliate me without talking to me first?" She started crying then. Real tears. Not the performative kind. "I didn't think you'd actually leave. I didn't think it was that serious." "That's the problem," I said. "You didn't think. Everyone makes mistakes." "This wasn't a mistake," I said. "Mistakes are accidents. This was a choice." I kept going. "You chose to say it. You chose those words. And you chose to laugh while you said them." "So what?" she asked. "You're just done." I looked at her, really looked at her. "You know what the worst part is? I spent 4 years trying to prove I was good enough. 4 years of showing up early to help your dad. 4 years of bringing your mom thoughtful gifts. 4 years of being polite to your friends, even when they made it obvious they thought you married down." I took a breath. "And just when I finally thought I'd made it, that I was accepted, you told everyone how you really saw me, that I was temporary, that you were settling, that someone better was out there waiting." "I didn't mean it like that," she said. "Then what did you mean?" I asked. "Because that's what everyone heard. That's what your parents heard. And that's what I heard." She didn't have an answer. After a long pause, she finally asked, "What do I have to do?" "I honestly don't know. All I do know is that whatever this is, it doesn't have a fast solution. You don't fix broken trust with a simple apology. Trust gets rebuilt through time, through consistent actions and real change. How long does that take? As long as it takes. There's no shortcut." A few days later, she asked me if I was seeing someone else. I actually laughed when she said it. Not because it was funny, there was nothing funny about it, but because the idea felt so off. No, I wasn't seeing anyone. What I was doing was finally seeing myself clearly, probably for the first time in years. About 6 weeks after that cookout, I closed our joint credit card. We'd used it strictly for household stuff. The final balance was just under $2,000. I paid my portion and sent Lauren a screenshot showing I'd covered $970. I told her I'd paid my half and she could either close the account or move it into her name, her choice. She wrote back, "This is really over, isn't it?" I replied, "That depends on you." That Saturday, Andrew helped me move into the apartment in Plano. Melissa showed up with housewarming stuff, plates, a coffee maker, and a few basic curtains. Andrew's kids were excited about Uncle Ethan having his own place. At first, there wasn't much furniture. I borrowed a couch from Andrew and slept on an air mattress that first night. A few days later, I bought myself a real bed. Getting that apartment set up was surprisingly healing. Every box I unpacked, every item I placed belonged to me. Not us, just me. And that mattered more than I expected. The following Sunday, Lauren showed up unannounced. She must have gotten the address somehow, probably from the paperwork we'd both signed early on. I was in the middle of putting together a bookshelf when the doorbell rang. She walked in without waiting for an invitation. "So this is it?" she said. "This is your new life without me?" I asked how she even got the address. She shrugged and said, "Does it matter?" I told her I hadn't given it to her on purpose. She glanced around the apartment, clearly unimpressed. 1 bedroom, no real dining space. "You gave up what we had for this?" she said. I told her it wasn't what we had anymore. "And yes, I chose this." "This is pathetic," she said. I stayed calm and told her she needed to leave. "Why?" she snapped. "Because you've moved on? Because you're doing so great without me?" That's when I finally raised my voice. I told her I was tired of being disrespected, tired of being treated like I wasn't enough, tired of spending my life wondering when she'd decide to leave me for someone more ambitious. She stepped back, clearly shocked by my outburst. "I wouldn't have left you," she said softly. "But you thought about it," I told her. "That comment you made, that's what it was. You were telling everyone you kept your options open." That's when she really started crying, harder than before. "Fine," she said. "You want the truth?" "Yes." She admitted she'd wondered if she'd settled, that I didn't have a degree, that I wasn't climbing some corporate ladder. Her friends questioned why she was with someone who worked construction. Her coworkers didn't understand why she hadn't married someone on her level. And sometimes, she wondered if they were right. There it was, the real truth finally out in the open. I thanked her for being honest. She looked confused. I told her that comment at the cookout hurt like hell. But it also woke me up. It showed me I'd been trying to earn approval from someone who was never going to fully give it. Because in her eyes, I'd never be enough. My income would never be high enough. Not having a degree would always count against me. I'd always be the guy she settled for. "That's not fair," she said. "But you just admitted it," I told her. "You question why you're with me. You wonder if your friends are right." She said she loved me. I told her I believed that. But love isn't enough when it comes with embarrassment attached. "I'm not ashamed of you," she insisted. "Then why make that joke?" I asked. "Why let your family laugh at my expense? Why choose that moment to remind everyone I'm not good enough?" She completely broke down. She said it wasn't about me, it was the pressure. Her mom asking about kids every holiday. Her dad talking nonstop about legacy. Her friends having babies and buying houses while she was still renting with, she stopped herself, "with someone who isn't good enough." I finished for her. "I didn't say that," she said. "You didn't have to," I replied. "You showed it." She begged me to tell her what to do, to tell her how to fix it. I told her there was no quick fix, no apology that could undo it. What she'd said wasn't a mistake. It was a reveal. It showed me who she really was under pressure. She showed me that when things got uncomfortable, she'd throw me under the bus. She showed me my worth to her was conditional. And she showed me that, after 4 years together, I was still being evaluated. "I don't know how to make this right," she said. "Then don't," I told her. "Just leave." She did leave, still crying as she went. I sat down on the floor afterward, surrounded by half-built furniture and open boxes, completely drained, but also strangely relieved. The truth was finally out in the open, and there was no pretending anymore. That Monday morning, I called Daniel Park, the divorce attorney. I told him I was ready to file. He asked if I was sure. I told him she'd come to my apartment. I explained that she'd finally admitted the truth, that she felt like she'd settled, that she was embarrassed by what I do for a living, that her friends questioned why she was with me. I told him I'd rather face the truth than live in denial. He told me to come in Friday so we could start the paperwork. That Wednesday, Jonathan came by with a six-pack. We sat in my mostly empty apartment, just the two of us talking like brothers do. He told me I seemed different. I asked what he meant. He said I looked lighter, still sad, but lighter. I told him I understood exactly what he meant. Felt like I'd been carrying this invisible weight, always trying to be enough. And once I finally set it down, everything around me felt different. 9 weeks after the cookout, Lauren was served with divorce papers at work, right there at her investment firm downtown. The filing cited irreconcilable differences, requested a fair split of debts, and no spousal support. She called me that night, the first time I'd picked up in weeks. She asked if I'd really filed. I told her I had. She said she didn't believe I would. I told her that was the problem all along. She never believed I'd stand up for myself. She asked if there was any chance left, then accused me of not even letting her explain. I told her I'd already heard enough. I heard her at the cookout. I heard her in my apartment. I'd heard the truth. And that was enough. The next day, Patricia called. She said she'd heard I'd filed. I told her it was true. She said she couldn't say she was surprised, Disappointed, yes, but not surprised. She told me not to apologize for what happened. She said her daughter broke something that never needed to be broken. Then she paused and asked if she could tell me something. I told her, of course. She said I was going to be fine. More than fine. She said some woman out there would appreciate what Lauren couldn't see. And then she said something that really stayed with me. She told me I deserved someone who knew they'd won, not someone who thought they'd settled. That hit me hard in the best possible way. Over the next few weeks, I fell into a steady routine. Work, the gym, dinners with Andrew's family, quiet evenings in my apartment. I picked up woodworking as a hobby, using the tools Richard had once given me. I built a coffee table from scratch, then a bookshelf. Working with my hands again, creating something that was completely mine, felt grounding. It helped more than I expected. Texas requires a 60-day waiting period for divorce. The days passed one by one. I worked. I built furniture. I spent time with my nephews. And I realized something. I was okay. Not pretending to be okay. Actually okay. About 3 months after the cookout, Patricia told me Lauren had started therapy. Apparently, her therapist helped her see that the comment she made wasn't really about my worth. It was about her own insecurities. She'd been so focused on external signs of success that she completely missed what really matters in a partnership. Her therapist gave her an assignment. Make 2 lists, what I contributed versus what she truly valued. She did it. Under my contributions, she wrote emotional support, physical help with her family, reliability, loyalty, effort, respect, and love. Under what she valued, she wrote prestige, status, appearances, and what her friends thought. Patricia said Lauren broke down during that session and admitted she'd traded something real for something imaginary. After that, Lauren stopped calling me, stopped texting. She started attending family events alone. Patricia said she seemed more humble, more reflective. She told her parents she'd destroyed the best thing she ever had because it didn't look impressive enough on paper. By the 4th month, we had our mediation meeting. The waiting period was over. The split was simple, no shared assets beyond our separate cars. She kept the old apartment until the lease ended. I kept my place. The final dissolution was scheduled for 2 weeks later. During that last stretch, Richard asked me to lunch again. Same coffee shop, same booth, almost like nothing had changed. He told me right away he wasn't there to plead Lauren's case. I told him that was good, because I wouldn't have listened. He said he just wanted me to know she was different now. I told him people don't change. He said some don't, but some do when they lose something they can't replace. He told me she'd quit her job at the investment firm, the same job where she'd once been embarrassed by me. She took a position at a nonprofit that builds affordable housing. 30% pay cut. Working with her hands. Helping families. She told Patricia she'd spent 4 years with a man who built things that helped people, and she was ashamed because he didn't have a fancy title. Now she was literally helping build homes. She said maybe now she'd finally understand what actually mattered. She was in therapy twice a week. She hadn't dated. She was focusing on herself. I told Richard the first was glad she was figuring herself out. That still didn't erase what had already happened. I know. I just needed you to hear this. If you ever wondered whether she truly understood what she did, whether it finally clicked for her, it did. Came far too late, but she understood. 5 months after that cookout, we officially finalized the divorce at the county courthouse. We were both there, sitting beside our lawyers, going through the motions. The whole thing felt detached and mechanical, like paperwork instead of a life ending. The judge signed off on the dissolution. Just like that, it was done. Effective immediately, we were no longer husband and wife. As I stepped into the hallway afterward, Lauren stopped me. Can we talk? Just 5 minutes? My attorney shook his head without hesitation, but I told him it was fine. I agreed. She didn't look like the woman from the cookout at all. Gone was the confidence, the polish. She stood there quietly, no makeup, plain clothes, almost withdrawn. Nothing like the version of her who'd laughed while making that joke. I know it's too late, she said. It is, I answered. I just need you to know that I get it now. What I did. Why it crossed a line. Why it couldn't be taken back. Okay. She took a breath and kept going. I spent 4 years with someone who showed up every single time. Someone who helped, who cared, who loved me in ways that actually mattered. And I couldn't see any of it because I was too busy measuring you against some made-up standard I got from people who don't even matter. I'm glad you finally see that, I said. I quit my job, she continued. I work for a housing nonprofit now. I'm building homes, using my hands, getting dirty. And every day I think about how much you would have loved this. About how you tried to tell me that a person's value isn't about job titles or salaries. That's good, Lauren, I said honestly. I hope it brings you some peace. It doesn't, she admitted. Because I lost you. She hesitated, steadying herself. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not expecting anything at all. I just needed you to know you were right. About everything. I really did think I settled, and I was completely wrong. I appreciate you saying that, I told her. Then she asked the question I knew was coming. Is there any universe where we could start over? Not now. Not anytime soon. But maybe someday? I actually stopped and thought about it. I didn't rush the answer. I don't know, I said finally. But I do know this. I can't be with someone who was ashamed of me, even if they eventually realized they never should have been. She nodded slowly. She understood. I hope you find someone who sees what I couldn't, she said. And I hope you find yourself. We walked away in opposite directions. And for the first time in months, I felt completely calm. It was truly over. No loose ends. No what-ifs. I could finally breathe. After that, I settled into a new chapter of my life. My woodworking hobby really took off. I started selling pieces at the local farmer's market on weekends. I still kept my regular construction job, but now I had something creative that belonged only to me. I started having regular dinners at Andrew's place. I dated casually, nothing serious, just learning who I was again as a single guy. My relationship with Richard and Patricia didn't disappear either. We texted from time to time and met for coffee every few weeks. I wasn't going to lose them just because I'd lost Lauren. I finished building a dining table for Andrew's family. Solid oak, real joinery, all done by hand. Came out beautiful. Andrew stared at it when I delivered it. This is incredible, he said. You made this. I did. Melissa ran her hand across the smooth surface. You're really talented, Ethan. Then Andrew's older son grabbed my arm. Uncle Ethan, will you teach me how to build stuff? Absolutely, buddy. 6 months earlier, I'd been standing in a backyard in Dallas, convinced I'd finally made it, convinced I'd earned my place in a family that, deep down, would always see me as less than. All it took was one sentence, less than 10 seconds, to break that illusion. At the time, it felt like everything was ending. But standing there in my brother's house, watching his son proudly hold a piece of sandpaper like it was something important, I realized the truth. It wasn't the end at all. It was the beginning of knowing my own worth, of expecting respect, of building a life that didn't need anyone else's approval but my own. About 7 months after everything began, Patricia called me one afternoon. I just wanted to check on you, she said. I'm good, I told her. Really good, actually. I'm glad, she replied. You deserve that. How's Lauren? She's finding her way, still at the nonprofit, still in therapy, still on her own. I hope she figures it out, Patricia said. Then she paused. Can I tell you something, Ethan? Of course. That day at the cookout when you walked away, I knew we'd lost you. But I also knew you were going to be okay. Why's that? Because anyone with enough self-respect to walk away from disrespect like that is always going to land on their feet. Thank you, Patricia, I said. That means more than you know. You'll always be part of our family, she told me. Even if Lauren isn't part of yours anymore. A few weeks later, I was back at the farmer's market, selling my woodwork. A woman stopped at my table, looking over the cutting boards and small tables I'd made. Did you make all of these? She asked. I did. She smiled. They're beautiful. Real craftsmanship, she said. She ended up buying one of the cutting boards. We talked for a minute about the kind of wood I used, the grain, the finish, and why I chose it. As she walked off, something hit me. Someone had just valued my work for what it actually was. Not my education, not how much money I made, not some title on a business card, but my hands, my effort, and the skill it took to create something real. Some people spend their entire lives trying to be enough for someone who has already decided they never will be. I did that for 4 years without even realizing it. And then, in one short moment at a family cookout, everything shifted. Those words hurt like hell when I first heard them. I won't pretend they didn't, but in the end, they set me free. They released me from chasing an impossible standard I was never meant to reach. They taught me that respect isn't something you bargain for in a relationship. That a real partnership only works when there's equal value, shared respect, and genuine admiration going both ways. Lauren learned that lesson too. But she learned it after it was already over. Sometimes that's just how life works. Sometimes people don't understand what they had until it's gone. And sometimes the greatest thing someone can do for you is show you exactly who they are, so you can decide whether that's someone you want to build your future with. I'm building a different kind of life now. One where I'm appreciated instead of merely tolerated. A life where my worth isn't judged by someone else's made-up expectations. A life where a simple cutting board, shaped and finished by my own hands, carries more meaning than any job title ever could. 8 months after I drove away from that cookout, I hosted one of my own. Just me, Andrew's family, and Richard and Patricia. We were creating new traditions, making new memories on the small patio of my apartment. Nothing fancy, just good food, good conversations, and people who treated each other with respect. Turns out, when you walk away from disrespect, you make space for respect to finally show up. Someone else will give Richard and Patricia grandchildren someday. Lauren will eventually find her footing. Maybe she'll meet someone who fits her standards. Or maybe, with time, she'll realize those standards were flawed from the start. Either way, it won't be me, and that's exactly how it should be. I'm done auditioning for a role I already earned. I'm done trying to prove my value to people who refuse to see it. I'm done being someone's for now, while they wait for their forever. I'm just done, and I've never felt more free.